Transport layer. Transportation of data. Transport layer is responsible of establishing a temporary communication system between two applications and delivering data between them. The transport layer provides services such as connection-oriented data stream support, reliability, flow control, and multiphasing. Transport layer responsibility terbagi kepada tiga. Yang pertama ialah track individual conversation. Yang kedua, segment data and reassemble segment. Yang ketiga, identify the application. Dalam track individual conversation, kita akan menjaki setiap perbualan individu yang mengalir di antara source application and destination application separately. Dalam segmen data dan reassemble segment pula, dia akan membagikan data ke segmen yang lebih mudah untuk mengurus dan mengangkat. Dalam identify the application, dia akan memastikan setiap aplikasi akan menerima data yang betul. Conversation multiphasing. Segmenting the data into smaller chunks enable many different communication from many different users to be intelligent, iaitu multiphasing on the same network. The transport layer adds a header that contains binary data to identify each segment of data and to enable various transport layer protocols to perform different functions in the management of data communication. Transport layer reliability. The transport is also responsible for managing reliability. Some applications may not require reliability. Transport layer requirements vary from application to application. TCP or IP should provide two transport layer protocol, transmission control protocol iaitu TCP and user data graph protocol iaitu UDP. IP use this transport protocol to enable hosts to communicate and transfer data. TCP is considered a reliable, full-featured transport layer protocol which allows for packet data delivery confirmation. In contrast, UDP is very simple transport layer protocol that does not provide any reliability. TCP iaitu Transmission Control Protocol. TCP transport is reliable because it supports packet delivery confirmation. There are three basic operations that enable reliability with TCP. First, numbering and tracking data segment transmitted to a specific host from a specific application. Second, acknowledging received data. And third, retrieving any unacknowledged data after a certain period of time.
User Datagram Protocol. UDP provides the basic function for delivering data segment between the appropriate application, with very little overhead and data checking. Some applications do not require reliability. Reliability incurs additional overhead and possible delays in transmission. Adding overhead to ensure reliability for some applications could reduce the usefulness of the application and can even be detrimental. Transport Layer Protocol. Transmission Control Protocol is a better choice for applications whose segment must arrive in a very specific sequence to be processed successfully. Application in which all data must be fully received before any is considered useful. Applications requiring TCP include database, web browser, email client. User Datagram Protocol is a better choice for applications that can tolerate some data loss during transmission, but delays in transmission are unacceptable. Applications using UDP include live audio streaming, live video streaming, voice over IP. TCP features. In addition to supporting the basic function of data segmentation and reassembly, TCP provides the following service. First, establishing a season. Second, reliable delivery. Third, same-order delivery. Fourth, flow control. TCP header. TCP is a stateful protocol. It keeps track of the state of the communication session by recording which information it has sent and which information has been acknowledged. Each TCP segment has 20 bytes of overhead in the header encapsulating the application layer data. UDP features. First, no-order data reconstruction. Data is reconstructed in the order that is received. Second, connectionless. No season establishment. Third, no flow control. Does not inform the sender about resource availability. Fourth, unreliable delivery. Any segment lost are not resent. UDP header. UDP is a stateless protocol. Neither the sender or the receiver is obligated to keep track of the state of the communication season. Reliability must be handled by the application. Live video and voice application must quickly deliver data and can tolerate some data loss. They are perfectly suited to UDP. The piece of communication in UDP are called datagrams. These datagrams are sent as best effort by the transport layer protocol. UDP has a low overhead of 8 bytes. Multiple separate conversations. The transport layer must separate and manage multiple communications with different transport requirements. Different applications are sending and receiving data over the network simultaneously. Unique header values allow TCP and UDP to manage these multiple and simultaneous conversations by identifying this application. These unique identifiers are the port numbers.
Port number, source port. The source port number is dynamically chosen by the sending device to identify a conversation between two devices. Destination port used to identify an application or service running in the server. Socket pairs. The socket is used to identify the server and service being requested by the client. Socket enable multiple processes running on a client. The source port number acts as a return address for the requesting application. It is the transport layer job to keep track of active socket. The nested command. Nested is an important network utility that can be used to verify the active connection in a host. The nested command will attempt to resolve IP address to domain names and port numbers. TCP and UDP. TCP server process. Each application process running on the server uses a port number. An active server application assigned to a specific port is considered to be open. TCP connection establishment. There is 3 steps. The intention client requests a client-to-server communication session with the server. Second, the server acknowledges the client-to-server communication session and requests a server-to-client communication session. The last step, the intention client acknowledges the server-to-client communication session.
TCP session termination. The FIN TCP flag is used to terminate a TCP connection. First, when the client has no more data to send in the stream, it sends a segment with the FIN flag set. Second, the server sends an ACK to acknowledge the receipt of the FIN to terminate the session from client to server. Third, the server sends a FIN to the client to terminate the server to client session. Fourth, the client responds with an ACK to acknowledge the FIN from the server. Fifth, when all segments have been acknowledged, the session is closed. TCP three-way handshake analysis. The three-way handshake establishes the destination device is present on the network, verifies that the destination device has an active service and is accepting requests on the destination port that the initiating client intends to use, informs the destination device that the source client intends to establish a communication session on that port number. TCP reliability, ordered delivery. TCP segments use sequence numbers to uniquely identify and acknowledge each segment, keep track of segment order, and indicate how to reassemble and reorder received segments. An initial sequence number, ISN, is randomly chosen during the TCP session setup. The ISN is incremented by the number of transmitted bytes. The receiving TCP process buffers the segment data until all data is received and reassembled. Segments received out of order are held for later processing. The data is delivered to the application layer only when it has been completely received and reassembled. TCP reliability, sequence numbers and acknowledgements. TCP is designed to confirm that each segment reached its destination. TCP session setup ensures the destination is not only reachable but ready to receive data. The TCP process on the destination host acknowledges the data it has received from the source application. TCP allows for the retransmission of missed segments. TCP ensures all segments are properly reordered upon receipt. TCP session termination allows for parties to gracefully end a TCP session when no data is to be transferred, or FIN flag. TCP endpoint can abruptly terminate a session if necessary, RST flag. TCP reliability, data loss and retransmission. TCP provides methods of managing segment losses. Among these methods is a mechanism to retransmit segments for an acknowledged data. TCP flow control, window size and acknowledgements. TCP provides mechanisms for flow control. Flow control ensures the TCP endpoints can receive and process data reliably. TCP handles flow control by adjusting the rate of data flow between source and destination for a given session. TCP flow control function relies on a 16-bit TCP header field called the window size. The window size is the number of bytes that the destination device of a TCP session can accept and process at one time. TCP source and destination agree on the initial window size when the TCP session is established. TCP endpoints can adjust the window size during a session if necessary. TCP flow control, congestion avoidance. Network congestion usually results in discarded packets. Undelivered TCP segments trigger retransmission. TCP segment retransmission can make the congestion even worse. The source can estimate a certain level of network congestion by looking at the rate at which TCP segments are sent but not acknowledged. The source can reduce the number of bytes it sends before receiving an acknowledgement upon congestion detection. The source reduces the number of acknowledged bytes it sends and not the window size, which is determined by the destination. The destination is usually unaware of the network congestion and sees no need to suggest a new window size.
UDP connection basics. What is UDP? In many aspects, the UDP protocol is the opposite of the TCP protocol. whereas the TCP provides a reliable, stream-oriented transport. The UDP offers a way to send data as separate packets or UDP datagrams. This is similar to paging, as in sending a message with a pager. Remember those? What is sent is a packet containing some data. There is no guarantee that the other side will receive the packet, and the sender won't know whether the packet was received or not. Each UDP datagram lives its own life, and you are responsible for dividing your data into chunks of reasonable size and sending it in separate datagrams. There is no connection establishment or termination on UDP. The datagram can be sent instantly without any preparation. Unlike TCP, the UDP is not point-to-point. For example, several hosts can send the datagram to the same socket of your device, and all of them can be accepted. A situation that is impossible with TCP. There is also an option to broadcast the datagram to all hosts connected to the same network segment, something that is also impossible with TCP. And now to UDP connections. This said, it should come as a bit of a surprise that we will now turn 180 degrees and start talking about UDP connections. Didn't we just say that there is no such thing? Well, yes and no. On the physical network, there is indeed no such thing. However, on our socket object level, we have deliberately made UDP communications look more like TCP connections. And since the UDP connection is nothing more than our SOC objects abstraction, we use the word connection in quotation marks. We consider an active open to have been performed when our host has sent the first UDP datagram to the destination. A passive open is when we have received the first incoming UDP datagram from another host, provided that this datagram was accepted. More on that in handling incoming connections. There is no graceful disconnect for UDP connections. The connection can only be discarded. Our host forgets about it. The UDP connection can also time out. Low overhead versus reliability. UDP is a simple protocol. It provides the basic transport layer functions. UDP has much lower overhead than TCP. UDP is not connection-oriented and does not offer the sophisticated retransmission, sequencing, and flow control mechanisms. Applications running UDP can still use reliability, but it must be implemented in the application layer. However, UDP is not inferior. It is designed to be simpler and faster than TCP at the expense of reliability. UDP datagram reassembly. UDP does not track sequence numbers the way TCP does. UDP has no way to reorder the datagrams into their transmission order. UDP simply reassembles the data in the order in which it was received. The application must identify the proper sequence if necessary. Different datagrams may take different routes. The data is divided into datagrams. The datagrams having taken different routes to the destination. Datagrams arrive out of order. UDP server processes. UDP-based server applications are also assigned well-known or registered port numbers. UDP applications and services running on a server accept UDP client requests. Requests received on a specific port and forwarded to the proper application based on port numbers. UDP client-server communication is also initiated by a client application. The UDP client process dynamically selects a port number and uses this as the source port. The destination port is usually the well-known or registered port number assigned to the server process. The same source destination pair of ports is used in the header of all datagram used in the transaction. Data returning to the client from the server uses a flipped source and destination port numbers in the datagram header. Applications that use TCP. TCP handles all transport layer related tasks. This frees the application from having to manage any of these tasks. Applications can simply send the data stream to the transport layer and use the services to TCP. There are three types of applications that are best suited for UDP. First, live video and multimedia applications. It can tolerate some data loss, but require little or no delay. Examples include VoIP and live streaming video. Second, simple request and reply application. Applications with simple transaction where a host sends a request and may or may not receive a reply. Examples include DNS and DHCP. And last, applications that handle reliability themselves. Unidirectional communications where flow control, error detection, acknowledgements, and error recovery is not required or can be handled by the application. Examples include SNMP and TFTP.